This week on The Travel Show. I'm in Dubai with visions of the future at the delayed Expo 2020. So if I scan this image here, I get an augmented reality view of what South Korea deems to be the future of mobility. And that includes flying cars. Woo! I take a dip and tumble. And I discover an artificial rainforest in what was once a desert. Oh, they're both back.
Hello.
Oh, here we go. But first, in a difficult couple of years in the global travel calendar, there's been one giant mega event looming. And of course, fitting for a giant mega event that was to happen in this city of superlatives, Dubai. Nobody knew for sure if it would happen, but here it is. Hello, Expo 2020, or should that be Expo 2021? Now, it was delayed by a year, and for a place that relies so heavily on tourism, Dubai needed this to happen. In fact, it's probably not too much of a stretch to say the entire international tourism industry needed this to happen. Well, I'm armed with my Expo passport. Let's do this. It's taking place over 6 months and had nearly 2.5 million visits in the first month alone. 192 countries have created pavilions showcasing innovations for the future. Here, in a site twice the size of Monaco, you have a world in miniature. Looking around this place, one thing to remember is that pavilions are like shop windows for countries. You know, in amongst all the tech and innovation, it's a real chance for them to show the rest of the world their big ideas and, you know, their idealized vision of their culture and values. But for some seasoned travelers, their experiences of these countries might be a little bit different. The first Expo, then called the World's Fair, started back in 1851, when it was opened by the UK's Queen Victoria in London. Back then, when only a fraction of people ever went abroad and information about the world was harder to come by, the multicultural innovations on show, fueled by the new Industrial Revolution, would have seemed extraordinary. But now, it's a technological revolution at Expo's heart.
And as you can probably tell, it's still a work in progress.
Last year, I came to see it in the making. So now I've come back to see how it's all come together. Now, the last time I was here, this place did not look like this and was basically one big construction site. But I can see that they've completely transformed it. The UK's contribution presents a huge wall of poetry, which doesn't always make total sense. It's generated by artificial intelligence using words donated by the public and was inspired by Professor Stephen Hawking's theories about how the world might come together to communicate a message in the event of meeting intelligent life from another planet. So I'm going to type my word in here. I am going for beautiful. And now I believe it's going to appear on the big screen. So talk me through the arrangement of the words, because just looking at it right now, it doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense. So how do we make a story out of this?
So it's really simple. Poetry is very personal. Every word is given a single couplet. Those couplets will speak to the individual who donated the word. But what's really exciting about this is the algorithm has been trained over many, many months. It has digested 15,000 poems, including Shakespeare, including Blake, and so on and so forth. The poetry societies across the UK have fed the algorithm words and poems so that it can learn how to create poetry. And the more words we give it, the better the sense of the poetry becomes. And right now, it's been up for a few weeks, and you can see sentences, you can see sense within this building. What we are trying to do with this building is show that we are innovators as a nation.
The pavilions each sit in one of the Expo's three main themes: mobility, opportunity and sustainability. And each theme has its own building. The Sustainability Pavilion is net zero energy and net zero water, diverting people's wastewater through a natural outdoor filtration system of reed beds and then reused on the site's vegetation.
So all around us, you'll find buildings that are net zero energy. You'll find buildings that have employed sustainable wood technologies and methodologies, shading, outdoor passive cooling areas. And it's actually a real honor to stand alongside all of these country pavilions from all around the world that have chosen to highlight solutions that are applicable to those regions and are trialing them out to see what works here.
And walking around, one of these sustainability pavilions stands out among the others. So there's around 80,000 different kind of plants here in this tropical garden and over 190 different species. And it really is so peaceful and so tranquil just wandering through here. And I also think it's kind of crazy that I'm in a giant garden that's slap bang in the middle of a desert.
In Singapore, we have more than 250 hectares of vertical green. So what we do here is reflected in what we do in Singapore, which in a much bigger way. 5 decades ago, Singapore is known as the Garden City. And until recently, the last decade, we have evolved into a city in a garden. Now we're aspiring to be a city in nature. And we will be rewarding all our gardens. We will bring nature closer to the people. Once you bring this down to the city, you are bringing the biodiversity closer to that. I think that is what we want to see.
And what better proof of that than with their first visitor, a bird which has nested here in the pavilion. But for Dubai, while all this might seem like a huge boon for the time being, what happens when all the visitors go home and the pavilions pack up and shut their doors? How sustainable is this Expo site then? Dubai has expanded at an extraordinary pace in recent years, but still, plans are in place to repurpose Expo to create a new living and working environment to support nearly 150,000 people as part of a vision for a human-centric future city. This site is huge. Twice the size of Monaco, I believe.
It is twice the size of, for the built environment, it's twice the size of
That is
yeah.
massive. So how are you going to make use of this space? How are you going to utilize it?
80% of everything that we've built gets repurposed. And it's taking this space, this incredible environment that you see from on top of here, and repurposing it into this innovation hub. And it's a blank canvas really for us, for architects, for smart infrastructure solutions, for startups that want to come into this vibrant environment. Dubai is moving towards becoming a very smart city. We're taking the lead in that. It's about creating this industry that is another focal point for Dubai.
And finally, it's nighttime when this place transforms into something else altogether. Like at South Korea's Pavilion, bursting with lights and technology. So if I scan this image here, I get an augmented reality view of what South Korea deems to be the future of mobility. And that includes flying cars. But there's one last emerging global superpower I wanted to see. So this is the China Pavilion and one of the biggest pavilions here. You might have guessed it might be. Now, they definitely don't do things by halves, which explains why every night they do a drones and lights performance outside. Here it goes. A brilliantly synchronized, stunning display. I expected nothing less. stay with us because still to come on the show, I take on one of the world's biggest floating inflatable assault courses and find out how the residents of a very special home here in Dubai coped during lockdown last year.
The speed in which those things devoured that chicken was unbelievable.
Now, the beaches here are one of the many reasons to visit Dubai. And as you can see, it's a glorious day. People are enjoying the sun. Now, I've been told there's a really fun way to cool off here. I'm about to give it a try.
This is Dubai Aquafun, the brainchild of a young Emirati entrepreneur called Ahmed Ben Chaibe, who claims that it's the biggest inflatable water park in the world. Against a backdrop of hotels and skyscrapers and a short 25-metre swim from the beach, you'll find a course made up of over 70 floating blow-up slippery slides, swings and other obstacles, all designed to test your stamina, balance and bravery. And after a bit of undignified clamber on board, I'm ready to accept the challenge.
It's a lot slipperier than you think.
Come on, Lucy. Woo! Almost. I think I've been in the water. I was just about to say, I think I've been in the water enough. 0.5 seconds and I didn't even touch the obstacle. Here we go.
Boo!
What was that?
That's what you got to look out for. You might complete the obstacle, but the slipping at the end, every time.
Something tells me I may have spoken too soon. I challenge anyone to get over this thing and stay dry.
I'm fit, yeah? I'm trying my hardest. But most importantly, this is so much fun.
3, 2, 1.
All right, here we go. Woo! You look like a slide. I think I'm ready to get off now.
Well, now that I'm thoroughly soaked through, it's time to dry off, but I'm not heading back to the beach. Instead, perhaps it's time to feel the wind in my very wet hair.
How's this for a socially distanced experience?
These are the Dubai Hero Boats, your own personal speedboat that lets you cut through the warm waters of the Gulf at speeds of up to 50 kilometers an hour. After a short instructional and safety tutorial, you'll stick to a vast but designated course, accompanied by a guide who's on hand to ensure that you stick to the rules whilst getting a high-speed and unique view of the Dubai beaches and skyline.
As far as rides go, this one is awesome. It's super easy to drive and Brandon's nearby for safety, just in case. You know, yeah, you could go pretty slow, but the real fun begins when you crank up that engine and more importantly, you do it with no mask.
Well, to finish off this week, we're heading to a place here in Dubai where, despite the heat outside, it rains as regularly as clockwork inside. And it's home to some rather special residents, and I've been to meet some of them. This is Green Planet Dubai, a purpose-built biodome where no matter what the temperature is outside, inside, it's a different story. And that's because of the thousands of animals, birds, fish and insects that live here.
This is just amazing. I mean, you've got a rainforest in the middle of the city. How? Tell me about the building.
So the building itself, it's temperature and humidity controlled all year long.
Yeah.
Perfect tropical environment right in the middle of downtown Dubai.
Dubai's not a place that's kind of synonymous with nature.
But Dubai is known for doing things unique. So the only rainforest in the middle of Dubai shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. So this tree here is artificial, and then everything growing off of it is natural.
I can't get over this sound check. It's so beautiful.
It's relaxing, isn't
It's
it?
very tranquil, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny when you start really seeing the animals and their personalities. So the Toko toucan over there, he's the boss of the birds.
Yeah.
He's in charge. So everyone has their kind of place and their homes and their personality, and it's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. And how many different species of animal are in here?
There's hundreds of different species, thousands of different animals.
You have the best job.
Thank you so much. I know, we're very lucky. Every day is a little different though. It's like working with kids. You can't predict what's going to happen by the end of the day. Every time you think you have them figured out, someone will surprise you and get themselves in a situation that you're like, I didn't even know that was possible today.
Yeah. How did you decide what animals actually go in here? You know, because they've all got to play nice together, I presume.
It's a very particular process to look before you bring any new animal at educationally, what would they bring to the facility, how they'd work together with the other animals, do they have the space and all the requirements that they need. Our last new animals were our 3 ringtail lemurs that you'll see today. And the first day that they came right after lockdown, they were introduced, they kind of came out, and I swear to you, there was about 100 birds all around them gathering like,
Who's the new kid?
Exactly.
Who's the new kid?
So it's a whole introduction process that they have to get used to and pass the test. But now they're settled in like pros. Within the building, we try to be as sustainable as possible, whether it has to do with a gray water recycling program, with eliminating as much as possible single-use plastics. We also have many different critically endangered conservation breeding programs for animals here in the building for the survival of these species, as unfortunately there's a lot of species becoming extinct in their natural habitat every year. We're trying to do all we can to just help them stay alive. We hope every one of our guests comes, experiences, has a great time, but leaves with a little bit more of a passion to take care of the environment.
Oh, they're both back.
Hello.
Oh, here we go. I love that there's just no fear. I don't think I've ever seen animals be this brazen before, collectively as well, you know?
Honestly, that's because it's their home first, right? So these guys are confident knowing they can be wherever they want to be, and guests can come nice and close, but we won't be touching any of the animals, and therefore they can be wherever they want and explore.
Oh, we just did a little twirl for the camera.
You just want to have some more nuts.
So when visitors come, they're told no touching the animals, you know, you've got to be quite strict about that, obviously.
We do have particular programs where you can, in a small group, get to know the animals more close up, if that's something you'd like to do. But in general, with our larger quantities of guests coming through, we'll just observe them from a little distance so that they can be comfortable coming to see you. And that's why we can have the sloths, the monkeys, the birds, the lizards, all kind of doing their own thing.
It's so fascinating just watching the way he eats. In the claw, using the beak to scrape the nut. When the pandemic hit last year, it must have been so tough for you. It's not like you guys can just flip the switch off, go home and come back in a few months.
No, definitely not. So considering that there's thousands of animals and plants around here that are relying on us for their survival no matter what. But we knew that's what needed to happen, and so it's what we were more than happy to do, and that's how we got through it.
In addition to being able to see wildlife from the aerial walkways, there are also programs here that give you the chance to get up close to some of the more intimidating residents, like a shoal of deadly, flesh-eating, hungry piranhas.
Matt, are you sure this is safe?
Absolutely, it's safe.
I've noticed you've got a cut on your hand.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Not a problem.
It's all right to roll with you?
Yep, just going to eat their chickens. We're going to watch for about 1.5 meters away.
Yeah,
absolutely fine.
And how many piranhas are in here?
Around 500.
500. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good.
Let's go.
Thankfully, I'm not on the menu today, which is a blessing considering how hungry these fish look.
Ugh. The speed in which those things devoured that chicken was unbelievable. I had to keep telling myself, they're not going to eat my feet, they're not going to eat my feet. But interestingly, it wasn't the piranhas that was the most terrifying thing, the pacu, the size of them, they're like this. Some of them at the bottom are even bigger, so I think that was the more disconcerting thing for me, but that was brilliant. I learned a lot about piranhas today. They don't want to eat me, and that's good.
Towards the end of every day here at Green Planet, the artificial heavens open and the whole biodome is soaked in a warm tropical downpour as some of the more nocturnal animals wake up and others start thinking about heading for bed, which is exactly what I'm going to do thanks to an overnight camping program they also run here.
So the last thing I thought I'd be doing when I was told I'd be coming to Dubai would be camping overnight with nothing but lemurs, parrots, and a tarantula to keep me company. I have a feeling the morning is going to be very early and very, very loud. The lights go out at midnight. Wish me luck.
Sleeping in a tent inside a building that's pretending to be outside. Only in Dubai. Well, that's all we've got time for you this week, but do join us next week if you can, when...
Buongiorno!
Krista is in Sardinia, one of only a handful of designated uber-healthy blue zones around the world, where your chances of living to 100 and beyond are pretty high.
Oh. All this and you live a long life. It's a pretty good way of life, I think.
Do catch that if you can, and don't forget, you can watch more of our adventures on BBC iPlayer. And from me, Lucy Hedges, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in Dubai, it's goodbye.